All right, welcome. Today we are diving head first into a massive public showdown over one simple but really tough question. What does a company actually owe to the rest of us? This is a wild story about a corporate scandal that didn't just grab headlines, it completely rewrote the rules for an entire country. So let's just start with that big question on the screen. What does a company owe society? I mean, is it just about creating jobs and selling stuff, or just following the law? Or is there something more? As we're about to find out, the answer is way more complicated than you might think, and it's being fought over in the court of public opinion pretty much every single day. Okay, so before we get to the main event, we gotta understand the two completely opposite ideas that really set the stage for this whole conflict. You can think of them like two fighters entering the ring, and each one has a totally different idea of what it even means to be a responsible company. And this slide right here breaks down those two worldviews perfectly. On one side, you've got what's called implicit CSR. Think of it as responsibility by the rules. It's mandatory. The idea is that companies do their part just by, following the law and paying their taxes. But on the other side, you've got explicit CSR, which is all about choice. This is the voluntary stuff, the charity drives, the social projects, all the things companies choose to do to look like good guys. Now, for a really long time, in places like Finland and other Nordic welfare states, that by-the-rules model was pretty much the only one that mattered. The deal was simple. Just be a good corporate citizen, follow the law, and, this is the important part, pay the taxes that fund the entire system. It was this unspoken agreement that everyone just understood. So what happens when someone breaks that unspoken agreement? Well, a single spark can light a massive firestorm. And in this case, that spark came from a huge healthcare company that basically decided those old rules didn't really apply to them anymore. Here's the play-by-play. Back in 2006, a Finnish healthcare company, we're just going to call it Medigroup, gets bought out by a big international private equity firm. Fast forward 5 years, and a newspaper drops an absolute bombshell. The company's using these legal loopholes to shuffle its profits offshore, and because of that, it was paying almost zero corporate tax in Finland. The story just exploded, kicking off what researchers call a public framing contest. Basically, a huge battle to decide what this story was really about. And ding ding, the bell rings for round one. The first fight is about as basic as it gets. Was what this company did a deeply immoral thing, or was it just, normal business? So the two sides came out swinging with totally different stories. The media framed it as a moral failure. They called the company a tax swindler and said it was threatening the very foundation of the Finnish welfare state. The company, though, tried to frame it as completely normal. Their whole angle was, look, this is a non-issue. We follow the law. This is just standard, common, totally legal tax planning. And check out this quote from an editorial at the time. It just perfectly nails the media's position. Paying taxes isn't just some legal thing. It's a moral and a social duty. This was the absolute heart of their argument, a direct shot at those old unspoken rules. But here comes the company's counterpunch. The CEO completely sidesteps the whole moral argument and focuses only on the law. He's saying, look, this is lawful, it's common, it's just how the game is played. They're essentially saying, hey, don't get mad at us, get mad at the rules. With no clear winner in round one, the fight got even bigger. The question wasn't just about morality anymore. Now it was a battle over who a company is really supposed to be responsible to. Is it society as a whole, or is it just its own stakeholders? The media switched tactics. Now they focused on real-world harm, arguing that all those unpaid taxes meant worse public services and a weaker welfare state. The company fired back by saying their main duty was to their core stakeholders, investors, employees, and customers, not the general public. And you know what? The media's arguments started to hit home hard. The public backlash was very real. A university started the process to drop them as a provider. A development organization cut ties, saying their values just didn't line up. And they started losing big customers. Suddenly being seen as irresponsible had a very real price tag. But the business community was not taking this line down. They pushed back, and this quote from an industry group just captures their view perfectly. They're arguing that profit isn't about greed. It's the thing that makes it possible to meet any social obligations in the first place. Without profit, you don't have a company. End of story. All right, this brings us to the final round. The debate shifted from who to blame to how do we fix this? The public was now asking, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And it turned into a fight over who should be in charge of enforcement, the government, the market, or the businesses themselves. So the media and the public started pushing for this policing approach. They wanted new laws, more market pressure, consumer boycotts, a whole arsenal of tools to keep companies in line. The company's response was to try and neutralize all that by saying, hey, our core business is our contribution. We provide services, we create jobs, that's our social good.
And look at this. The public didn't just ask for one little fix. They came back with a whole new playbook. They called for law reform to close loopholes, new rules for government contracts to freeze out tax avoiders, and a big push for market pressure, basically empowering people to vote with their wallets and support companies that were transparent about their taxes.
In the face of all this, the company played its ace. A simple, powerful number, 6,500. This was their key defense. While everyone was focused on the corporate income tax they weren't paying, the company pointed to the 6,500 Finnish people they employed. They argued that their indirect contribution, through jobs and salaries, was a massive social good that everyone was just ignoring. So, who won the battle? Who landed the knockout punch? Well, the crazy thing is, nobody did. And, in a way, everybody did. There was no clear winner. Instead, out of the fire of this public fight, something totally new was created. A brand new playbook for what it means to be a responsible company. And this right here, this is the big idea we've been building up to, the birth of hybrid CSR. This new model, forged in conflict, literally, blends the two approaches we talked about at the beginning. It says being responsible is about both the mandatory, by-the-rules stuff, like paying your taxes, and responding to the voluntary, by-choice pressures coming from customers and the public. It's a mashup. Basically, the unspoken rules were dragged out into the open and rewritten for everyone to see. The old deal in Finland, which was just follow the law and you're good, that was off the table. After this whole fight, being a truly responsible company meant you had to do both, meet your legal duties and meet the ethical expectations of the public. So I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you see some big corporate scandal blow up in the news, remember this story. Ask yourself, are you just watching a company get into trouble, or are you actually watching in real time as the very rules of responsibility get rewritten for all of us?